Hello, my name is Marcus Malone. I would like to personally welcome you out to One Sound Memphis, our first inaugural celebration. We're excited. We are uniting as musicians. We are all coming together from the old to the young to the aspiring to every genre, every ethnicity. We are just coming together in unity. We're going to discuss important topics that it takes to make it in the industry. We're going to discuss things that we're going to do after the gig, things that how do you get a gig, things that will make you teach you to obtain a gig. So I'm excited about it. Thank everybody for coming out. Welcome. This is just the beginning. We're going to have more things coming. Stay tuned for One Sound Memphis.
Thanks so much. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to read a quote that I put on my social media page the other day. Let the excellence and power of music be the synthesis for peace and unity. Let the excellence and power of music be the synthesis for peace and unity. And then a hashtag supreme musicality. And I think that's what all of us are here for this evening, to experience that, to learn how to be better at it. None of us have, everybody look this way for just a second. I'm checking out everybody coming in. But no one individual has all the answers.
That's right.
Do we get that? No, not one individual has all of the answers. So what am I saying? That is why we have such an array of fine panelists that are serving you this evening and that are here not only to share out of their own experiences, individual experiences, but for you to interact with afterwards and to continue the relationship. I want to commend, before we go right into this, I want to commend Marcus Malone. You know, God gives gifts. Come on, let me give it better than that. For an individual to have a big enough heart and big enough mind and vision to say that I want to do something for this community at large, for the kingdom. We want to say thank you, Marcus, for this. It's really tremendous. Well, I'm excited. This is really a great event. I'm excited about the purpose of this panel. As you well know, they're all from a variety of genres, variety of musical experiences, not only necessarily church, and then I can't say, but all of them at this table pretty much are, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, are all involved in the church in some capacity, but most of them have sprung out in secular venues, are accompanying our artists, so forth and so on. And you know, I just consider music, music is music. God created music, amen? Amen. Now it's what we do with it and how we, edify and glorify it, and so forth and so on. But I want to just salute every one of these individuals, and I want to take up the time. I know we have 7 minutes for each presentation. What I would like to ask each panelist, prior to your discussion topic, I want you to give currently just a 30-second synopsis of what you currently do in your career. Say, for instance, if you're a minister of worship at a church or percussionist at a church, in addition to I am musical director for Beyonce, whatever, let it be known. All right, so let's start with our first panelist, Brother Chris Pat.
Okay, my name is Christopher Patrick Bounds II. I am a drummer, musician. I currently serve at Cummins Street Missionary Baptist Church along with Mississippi Boulevard Horizon Service. I am a musician. I play with a lot of different artists, from Stevie Wonder, New Kids on the Block, matter of fact, it's up there, Tony Braxton, ZZ Ward, Christina Aguilera, to name a few. I am also a youth pastor, a youth minister at my church. God has opened up the door for that, so that's a lot of fun and a lot of work. Also, what else do I do? I teach drum lessons, so a lot of people who want to do that work at Stack Music Academy. My young guys over there, I'm the drum instructor up there. I'm a married man, so I'm a husband and I'm a father, so I got a pretty full life. Yeah. When you think about that. So that was 46 seconds, all right? So 15 seconds so. All right, so here we go. Let's get into it. I'm talking about the topic before the gig, okay? Before you play a note, before you do anything on main stage, that's what I'm about to bring you right now. So I'm gonna preface this by saying I love music. I love to play music, and I believe that's what God put me on this earth to do. To play music, to teach music, and to enjoy music, okay? I love doing that all the time. So I asked God a long time ago to please help me make music on its highest level. Then he provided me with the tools to do so. And this is how we started. We started out with practicing. How well do you like to play? You like to play all the time, right? My musician friend, I'm ready to rap, so y'all gonna have to talk back at me if that's all right. So how well okay? Really well. I'm pretty sure we like to play really well. How many of you guys practice like how you would like to perform? Okay, how many of you practice like you're there on stage with Stevie Wonder already? You got your own place at home. How many of you envision like that worship setting, that place of being that ultimate worship experience? I'm gonna talk about it. Before I even got to a Mississippi Boulevard, I had to start at a Greater Gethsemane. You know, I had to start playing on my little small trap kit, and I started there. So it gave me practice to when I got to a Mississippi Boulevard or to any of the cathedral church that I ever played for, or was playing with flag and everything. Before I even got there, I had to start playing Worthy of Thee before I had the chance to play Hold My View While I Shout, whatever the case may be. So here's the other thing. Before I developed a reputation for playing, I had to play with Chris J at the Gibson Guitar Lounge. Then God blessed me to play at the O2 Arena with Stevie Wonder. So I thought myself there, like I was telling my kids today, I thought myself there, and that came with my practice time. So y'all know John P. Key, right? Yeah. Y'all know Billy Rivers, y'all know Kevin Davidson. My grandmother had those videos at the house. So I used to sit there and watch Teddy. I used to sit there and I used to watch Stanley. I used to sit there and watch all of these musicians. And I was like, if God, if you just give me the chance, I know when I do it, I'm really gonna do it well. But I practiced. I had my headphones on. I told my mama's car up, playing drums on her airbag and all that kind of stuff. And I did all of that stuff. But I practiced and I practiced because I wanted to be a great musician. Practice, by definition, is the repeated performance of systematic exercise for the purpose of acquiring skill and proficiency. Now, I asked God to put me on the highest level, right? So he had to give me skills and proficiency and all that kind of stuff. So he gave me the gift. I had to turn that gift into a skill, okay? Now, it's one thing to want it, but you gotta, when you ask God for it, but you gotta put in the work. I didn't just wake up one day, I said, you know, and feel led by the Spirit, you know what, Leo, I think God called me to play here. You know what I'm saying? It was some stuff that had to be done before I even made it to this level. You know, I couldn't call Stevie Wonder and say, you know what, Doc? I feel led by the Spirit. Nah, that wasn't gonna work. So, with practice, the MDs on this panel could probably agree with me. Now, with the practice habits, you gotta have great practice habits. On this panel, you ain't gonna tell me how to work an MPC. You ain't gonna tell me how to play with a click track that flag. You ain't gonna tell me that it's a prerequisite skills that I must possess before I even get to playing the greatest of all time. Okay? It's some skills that I have to have before I even get a chance to play that stuff. And that don't come when I get to the studio with Jason. That comes at home. That comes in my practice time, which talks about, now what do I need to practice on? So you got feel, you want the song to feel good, right? You want to be able to dance to it. I'm a drummer, so you got to be able to dance to it. All right, so you got to have good tone. You want to make sure it sounds good, make sure your drums tune right. You got to have perfect timing now. Don't miss the one. You got to have good spacing. I like, you know, a lot of drummers like the chopper have speed and efficiency. That's one good thing to have too, ain't that right, Tevin? And now, also recreating. I like being able to recreate some magical things that I've seen a lot of wonderful musicians do. My favorite musician drummer is Stanley Randolph. Everybody knows that. If I felt like if I could do some of the things he did, I was recreating greatness because I wanted to be that. After I hear Calvin Rogers play on the radio and my song comes on, I wanted to match what was happening, what he did, which brings me to skills. How many of y'all like taking tests? Nobody. How many of y'all like the things that have been tested? Like an airplane. How many of y'all fly on an airplane? Now you know they gotta test that stuff before they put it in the air, right? You can't just up and get on an airplane. You know, I fly on planes a lot, and sometimes they delay our flight because of maintenance testing. That's fine. I don't mind that so much because at the end of the day, I need to make it home to my wife, and I need to make it to my destination. Okay, that's very important to me. I love the fact that the pilot and the co-pilot didn't just feel led by the Spirit again and just say, you know what, I think I can fly a plane today. No, they're not saying that. What they're doing, they had to go to some kind of school and all that kind of stuff. Now, why would an MD, a minister of music, a pastor, or artist trust in your skills? Why would they trust in your skills? Because they feel like, they understand that he possesses the skills to do what I need him to do. When the time is right, that shout track is jumping, Leo don't need to worry about it if he gonna keep the beat. He don't need to worry about that stuff. When we play the greatest of all time in the studio, we don't need to worry about if Chris Pat gonna keep up with the track, the click track, and all that kind of stuff. Which brings me to my next point. And I gotta move expeditiously because my wife is giving me the eye. Versatility. Versatility. It's one good thing to be able to play gospel music, which is the core of all music, okay? You got the blues, funk, and all that kind of stuff. But when you grow and you start moving up in your skill level, you don't only want to be one-dimensional, okay? You want to be able to use everything you learn in different places to bring it back, and you have to use your reasonable gift towards God. I always play for God all the time, whether I'm in London or whether I'm at Beulah Baptist Church, or I'm doing it for God every single time. That's the only reason I still believe God to this day continues to bless me, because he understands it's not about me anytime I play. I really love the fact that I play and I get to use it and all that kind of stuff. So, professionalism, because I got to go. Professionalism. Before you play the gig, ask yourself this very important question. Do I know this material well enough to carry out this body of work? Because I ain't gonna lie to you, a lot of us, we get a lot of music all the time, especially us experienced musicians up here. Some of us, we gotta play Sunday morning service, Sunday evening service. We gotta learn probably like 15, 16 songs a week, don't you think so? Like brand new bodies of music, especially when you start working with a lot of different artists. Now, you're gonna have to compartmentalize your time to learn these songs efficiently. You can't just up and be led by the Spirit again and feel like if I listen to the song one time, I got it. You gotta learn those songs in parts. Before I had the opportunity to play for Christina Aguilera, I was tested by playing with New Kids on the Block. I had never played with New Kids on the Block before. Stanley gave me that gig. I know my time is running out, but this is important to the story. Stanley called me. Rob Lewis had never heard me play. He never heard me play. So my test was, if I could make it through this gig, I could make it through the next gig. God will set me up. I played the gig with New Kids on the Block, and I played a 3.5 hour show that they had been working on and perfecting that show for over 7 years. I came in with no rehearsal. They just gave me the tracks and they gave me all the stems and the music, and I had to regurgitate that stuff one time. All I had was sound check to go through the problem areas, and we played that show from top to bottom. Learning large bodies of music is a hard thing to do. But if you get it and you practice and you do all that stuff you did beforehand, you'll be able to play that stuff. So he knew I could do it after then. Guess what? He called me all the time. Now, thank God, because them gigs pay a lot of money. You know? And I can take care of my wife and my 2 beautiful kids. So, professionalism, you can warm up, you can reflect through the body of music, you should embrace your support system like your wife and your people who are helping you out and praying you through this thing, and have fun, but most importantly, before you do anything like we just did tonight, make sure you pray. Okay, make sure you pray and you ask God. Now, God, I know this is what you have me doing, and you got me in these places and these positions in front of folks. You're leading, you're playing, you're worshiping, and all that kind of stuff. You got to consecrate yourself. Now, this is important. Before you play a gig, make sure you consecrate yourself. Make sure you be like, God, I'm giving this back to you. So you give it back to him. And don't half do it. Put God right in front of your face and you playing that music. Make sure you play it right. Because you're giving it back to him. It ain't for the people in front of you. It's for him. Okay? Put God in front of your face. And every time you play, I guarantee you won't go wrong. Okay? God bless y'all.
Talent is overrated. 60% of it I go with, 40% I don't. But it talks about the essentials of practicing and repetitive practicing that develops the skill. So, you can rely on, we do that old school, relying on the Lord will do and the anointing of God, and that is important, that is essential. But he has to have something to work with.
That's true.
Amen. Yeah, he has to have something to work with. Great. Give Pat a hand. Great job. Next we have Brother Kurt Clayton and Tim Mason.
Real quick, one thing, well, a couple things I always say, and Brother Davis always said it, and I always say one thing, if you don't remember anything else, remember, the talent gets you in the door, but your attitude keeps you in the door.
That's right. Right.
Let me say that one more time. The talent gets you in the door, but your attitude keeps you in the door. Now, as a musical director, we're basically the producers of the show. It's our job, first and foremost, to protect our client, which is the artist. That's our job. Our job is to make sure that whoever we're going to perform with, all they got to do is grab that mic and say, hello, how y'all doing, and never have to look back at that band. That's the first thing. All right? Now, another thing, let me say this, and I say this with wholeheartedness. This is with everybody. Pocket gets you paid. Let me say it one more time. Pocket gets you paid. I have never claimed to be the best keyboard player or the best. I just do my job. Because everybody's got a lane and everybody's got a job to do. So as long as you do your job, you can continue to work in this business. You don't have to be the best or whatever. As long as you do what you are supposed to do, you can work. Singing backgrounds is the hardest thing in the world. Because everybody can sing lead. Let me say that like that. Everybody can sing lead. But singing backgrounds take discipline. Because you have to become a chameleon. You have to mimic the artist that you're performing. It ain't about you. Like Chris said earlier, it ain't about you. Your job is to do the job that is hired to you. And even for me as a musical director, my job, I don't hire my friends. I have to hire professionals. Let me say it again. I can't hire my friends. I have to hire professionals simply because if I'm fighting, if you're getting paid to do a job, do the job. So we can be cool. I'm cool with everybody. But if you're not doing the job, I gotta get somebody else. Because at the end of the day, if you go in and you're not prepared, as Chris already said, if you're not prepared, then that falls on me. And they have every right to fire me. So I'm not gonna get fired because you ain't ready. So another thing that we also have to do is you treat everyone like professionals. You have to treat everyone because everyone is professional, which means a lot of times, even what we do is I may advance the show, which is I'll give everybody the material. I'll send the material out to you. All right? I give you your time to learn it. I don't check on you every day. I don't do it. That's not, you're a professional. I'm paying you like a professional. So when we come into rehearsals, it's more so we just kind of fine-tuning everything. Because I'm trusting you, and we're trusting you to do your job, which is run the material. Because one thing that we always hear musicians, the first thing that a lot of musicians always ask about is how much the gigs you pay. You're always worried about your money, but you ain't worried about the music. Well, I gotta worry about all of it because my thing is, I fight for my band. Anybody knows me, I fight for the band. I try to make sure you get top dollar, you get flights, rooms, nobody doubles up and all that kind of stuff. But if I'm gonna fight for you, you have to do the job. So don't get mad if you come in and you're not doing the job and I say, you know what, I love you, but you got to go. It's simple. Now, another thing you have to understand for us, my job, once again, my loyalty, first and foremost, a Christian is also, my loyalty is to feed my family. I can't jeopardize me feeding my family for you. I cannot do it. So when it's all said and done, it's a job. It doesn't matter what you're getting paid, because trust me, there have been times we have done gigs and we have done situations for little or no money, but it was a good opportunity that gets you somewhere else. But if you take on the job, if the job is paying $1, it's your responsibility to still put your best foot forward. Because you never know who's looking, you never know what position you're going to be in a lot of different situations. So you have to understand, you got to be professional at all times. When you come into rehearsal, like Chris said, when you come to rehearsal, you got to come in like it is the gig. You can't come in saying, I'm going to get it down. No. You got to already have it down before we get there. And that's just being real. It's not, because sometimes, unfortunately, you have to understand, it's a business. It's nothing personal. It is a business. So we're not there to hurt your feelings, but at the same time, if you're not coming in doing what you're supposed to do, your feelings gonna get hurt real quick. Because nobody has time to baby you, but you want to get paid and they want to treat you like a professional. but you're not acting like a professional. So once again, our job as musical directors, we have to cater to everybody. We've got to make sure that the client that we're hired by, we make sure that they're comfortable. We got to make sure that we understand the makeup of a band. Make sure that we understand everyone. We got to deal with the sound people, the lighting people. We got to deal with management. We got to deal with we got to deal with the budget. We got to do a lot of situations. But also, one other thing, let me say this. Before anything, learn the music. And even then, learn the original versions. Because you can always fine tune it. But you got to learn the basics, because most artists are going to tell you this: play it like the record. The biggest compliment you can ever get is, man, you sound like the record. Because you got to play like a consumer. When you go to a concert and you hear Stevie Wonder, if Stevie Wonder doesn't sound like Stevie Wonder, you say, well, he sounded all right tonight. But if Pat is playing with him and they do it, and you say, oh man, they sounded like the record. That's the biggest compliment you can get. And the only way you can do that is that you play the parts. Don't play what you want to play. Because trust me, you can do that, but you'll be doing it at home. I'm just going to keep it real with you. But that's why they hired me. So that's why they brought me up here, because I'm just going to keep it real. Do what you're supposed to do. Play the parts. And I see my good friend out there, Carlos Sargent. This happened years ago. This quick story. With Carlos and I, we were the angelic voice of faith. And Carlos came in, young drummer. I said, all right, man, let me see what you got. Oh, man, he was going in. Just going in, all conflicts. I said, okay, ready to do show? That's it. I took away the cymbals. I took away all the tones. I left with a hi-hat, a snare, and a kick drum. And I said, I trust you. I said, if you can play the show with that, I'll keep you working. Are we still working, Carlos? God bless you all. That's all I got to say.
They've said a lot that I really already got in my notes for tonight. But I'm going to talk about, well, first of all, I'm supposed to introduce myself. I'm currently serving as the minister of music at Brown Baptist Church. Traveling with Kirk Carr. I've been traveling with Kirk Carr for about 11 years now. And different other artists, personalities, stuff like me. All right, so I'm going to talk about what I have is 3 C's about MD and the gig. Okay? 3 C's, the letter C. Okay, these words God will see. Amen. So the first C is commitment. Okay, one thing about it, the definition of commitment is the state of quality of being dedicated to the cause, activity, and excel. And I looked in the thesaurus and said dedication, devotion, allegiance, loyalty, faithfulness, and fidelity. One word that stuck out to me was devotion. And a lot of times we look down on devotion when it comes down to church, quote unquote church. But devotion is not just in church, it's actually before we even get to church. Your devotion is your prayer time, the time you spend. So as a music leader, as a music director, I spend time ahead of time. I've been for a long time, I get up maybe 2 hours before I have to be at church. I spend time in my private area. I'm gonna tell you what my private area is, but I spend time in my private place. And it's really kind of just get my mind together and having that devotion time with God. God may shift and say, this is what, you got to do something different today, And there's not to be too deep, but even as an MD with a band, you got to sometimes just be connected, before you even with who you pick to play with you. Like you said, you can't always pick your friends. Sometimes this gig may not call for you to call your friend. Everybody know a lot of times when I do stuff, I quickly call Larry and Bart. But it may be a day that may say, man, I might need to call somebody else. I might need to call somebody else because they may connect with this gig different, you know what I'm saying? Not saying they couldn't do it, but it may be a different connection. So that commitment to God first and then to the music, to that artist, to that music, to that level of music, you gotta be committed to it. You gotta be devoted to it. The second C is communication. He said he sent the music out early enough, same thing. We have to give you time as a band, we have to give you time to know your stuff. My best lesson was when I was playing at Memphis Boulevard with Leo. Leo was sending us music. We would get out of church at 12 o'clock, and Leo was sending us music at 12:20 for the next week. And it was when we came to rehearse on Thursday night, there was no excuse for you not to know your music. And just like I said, when you're coming in, it's not time for you to be, okay, man, we're gonna try to share it together and try to figure it out. It's not the time for it. You do that at the house. If he give it to you on Sunday, you got 4 days to prepare before you get to rehearsal at 7 o'clock. When you get there at 7 o'clock, it's downbeat. It's downbeat. Now we just trying to work on the chemistry. Okay, that's another scene. So I got 4 scenes. But you got to work on the chemistry, between the band, But that chemistry got to start at the top. Some of the best MDs are not the most talented people. Sometimes as an MD, we can surround ourselves with more talented people that just can make us say, man, Tim got it together. I'm not the best, I know I'm not the best keyboard player, but I call a Lance or I call a Aaron or Chris or anybody that I know can really do it. And I can be back in the cut. There's been a lot of times where I've MD'd from playing ox. And everybody say, man, the ox position is like one of the lower parts. No, it's not. It's actually a more important part. And right there, I'm gonna give you one song example, and everybody give me credit for this song. And I was playing ox in the song. Billy Rivers' song, Never Leave. Everybody said, man, you killing it. I was MD in the band, but I wasn't playing keys though. I was playing that road part, that one of the road part. That's the only time I had time to shout. But the rest of the band was playing. Chris Pat was playing drum. Jermaine Murphy was playing mains on this song. But everybody come to me and say, man, you was smashing this song. Wasn't me. But it was me as but it was the time as the MD to get the jail together and let everybody else shine around you. You just make sure the jail is together. That's their communication. Everybody had their stuff. Everybody knew where we were going. Sometimes I'm very what's the word I'm looking for? Graphic. And I think that may be a word. I'm very visual. When I'm MD, I'm making sure that I know. A lot of times I'm not so much concerned about what I'm playing, but making sure that everybody around me know where we're going. Okay, that's another level of communication. My hands up, doing stuff. That's another thing, and doing it ahead of time, not doing it. If it's a lot of times in the gospel gig, we don't stick to formats. We don't, Billy Rivers on the second row, and we have never played a format ever in life. Okay, but I'm just saying. But sometimes we just go about where we get in the band, we gonna ride this one. You get on the secular gig, it's gonna stick to the format. But when you get in gospel, sometimes it's gonna feel good, and you're gonna stay right there. So it's up to the MD to communicate ahead of time, not right at the bar, and the choir directors letting us know ahead of time, not right when it's coming up that we're gonna go out or we gonna repeat. Right. We gotta prepare. We gotta know where we're going. All right, that's communication. The last one is character. Okay, character. Something we hear a lot about, but we don't really see a lot. My question is, do you give the same attention to a smaller gig that you would give to a bigger gig?
Say that again.
Do you give the same attention? Do you give the same attention to a smaller gig as you would give to a bigger gig? So if you were playing at a Brown Baptist or playing at a Smithson Boulevard or Bountiful Blessings, would you give that same attention at playing at a smaller church? Not to name no other churches, but if they weren't paying you the same amount of dollars, would you still learn the music and not learn at the music? Would you still spend the same time? If you want as powerful in making stems, would you still go and say, I'm gonna make stems, I'm gonna set up my equipment? I've seen guys come to a smaller gig that play drums, they'll bring the bass drum, snare, and hi-hat one cymbal. But then when we get ready to play for an artist, they have like 7, 8, 9 cymbals.
Yeah.
Why can't you get the same attention when we playing for the quartet as you give them when you playing for the concert, when you're doing the session? That's a big thing for me. I don't know, there's been one thing I've heard people say, man, Tim will get that same attention every time you play for anybody. I try my best to be my best, because it's not about me, it's about the glory of God. Right. But my one testimony is being in the right place at the right time. I didn't know that April 2007, I went 7, 6, 4, one of years. But when I went to play for Kirk for the first time, I never knew that was going to be a life-changing experience for me. I was going, they called me at maybe 1 o'clock, gig at 7 o'clock, said, can you drive to Little Rock tonight and go? I was like, man, but they wouldn't call me if they didn't see me serving right when I was in my local assembly. Every Sunday at church, I had 2 or 3 keyboards, margins and stuff sitting up on the bench. I didn't have a margin stand. I hadn't even sitting on the choir stand bench. So if you're serving right in your local assembly, sometimes the bigger gigs come from that. Don't demise the small beginnings. Amen.
All right, hello. How's everybody doing?
Cool.
First of all, my name is Charles Streeter, born and raised from Memphis. I just moved back from Los Angeles 6 months ago. As far as how I got started, grew up playing under Deborah Flag at Christ Missionary Baptist Church, Gina Stewart's church. Before Flag, it was Lester Snell, who was the minister of music at the church. Jimmy Kennard, bass player at the church. Went to Whitehaven High School. Yeah. All right, I'm going to the band in Whitehaven. Yeah, I want to throw that out there, Chris. Yeah. Chris went to Hamilton. We used to beat up on him all the time. A couple of things I want to talk about is, one of the main things is 80-20. Can everybody hear me? Mm-hmm. 80-20. What is 80-20? 80% your personality, 20% playing. When you're touring with any musician or artist or whatnot, 80% of the time you're hanging out and kicking it, pretty much. 20% of the time you on stage. You know, of course you need to be able to do your job well, but at the same time too, if you have a jacked up personality, nobody wants to be around you. You know, you're on stage, let's say you go on tour. Like I said, I was on tour with Jennifer Lopez for 7 months. Okay, gone, 7 months. So imagine being with people, you know, you got different personalities, different, you're around people who grew up differently from you, you know, hygiene, all these type of things you gotta give an account. But yeah, exactly. So with that tour, you know, in a week, Monday through Sunday, we would probably be off that Monday, that Tuesday, do a show Wednesday. They have to pack up the trucks, the big rigs, go to the next city, then set up, you know, so you do about 3 shows in a week, but it's 7 days in a week. You know, so out of those 7 days, you know, you're pretty much hanging out, you know what I mean? You need to be able to do your job, but people would rather hire a subpar musician who can play their part, who has a great attitude than, I have to excuse my language here, but, you know, an amazing musician who has a jacked up attitude. You know, people don't like you, or you don't like people, or you got a problem with that person. You know, you have to leave your personal issues, you know, at home, you know what I mean? We were talking about learning, you know, the music, learning your parts. There are a million amazing musicians in the world. I mean, we have, thank God, you know, growing up in Memphis, from Memphis, we have some amazing musicians here. But always remember, there's a million amazing musicians who can do your job, you know. So, with that being said, if you have the right attitude and a great personality, that'll get you and keep you gigs 24/7. You know, we talk about playing pocket, you know what I mean? Since I've moved home from, you know, and coming back home, and I've seen a lot of different musicians all over playing the church, you know, going to different gigs. And what I've been seeing a lot lately is, you know, a lot of people, you know, we were talking about practicing, but to me, it sounds like you're practicing on the gig. You know what I mean? Nobody's leaving space for the songs to breathe. When you're playing with the band, you have, majority of the time, rhythm section, you have keys, drums, bass, guitar. Sometimes you have 2 keyboards, sometimes you have 3, sometimes you have 2 guitar players. With Stevie Wonder, you have 2 drummers and 2 percussion players, 8 horns, 5 keyboard players. You know, you have all this stuff, and you have to play your part. When you talk about playing part, you know, playing parts and being versatile as well. If you look at, you know, well, I'm looking this way. If you look at the artists, you know, God has, of course, blessed me to play with. That's so many different genres, and a lot of them are not up there. But just learning, I feel we need to go back to the basics a little bit. I thank God for, you know, the Lester Snells and the Jimmy Kennard and the people in Kirkland who used to be in my neck all the time about playing the part. At first I thought people were being mean to me. You know, they didn't want me to get better. But now I thank God for them, you know, who wouldn't let me just play any and everything. You know what I mean? So I guess for me, you know, I hear a lot of people say, you know, well, we just making the song ours, you know, but if somebody wants to call you to play on a gig, and the only thing you've been doing all your life is just making it up, you know, as you go, they don't want to hire you no more, because when you get there, you don't know how to learn the simplest part. You know what I mean?
playing big gigs and doing big tours, you know, it depends. I don't want to speak down on anybody or anything, because I'm not saying anything like that. Because if you're supposed to be the next Chris Coleman, the next Dave Weber, please be there. But if you want to play a mainstream gig, you know, you have to play the gig like the record. And we're talking about like the record. I hear a lot of gospel chops on every instrument. If you want to be a gospel musician and that's what you want to do, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to, you know, be a jazz artist, there's nothing wrong with it. But if you want to play with the big artists and do all the arena tours and do all the award shows and all that, when we say we're doing a 3-30-minute song, a 3-minute and 30-second song, it's going to be the same like we rehearsed it from point 1 all the way to 3:30. It's no extra licks, no, let me feel it, Doc, none of that stuff, you know what I mean? And especially, what taught me a whole lot, well, my first gig, going back to God too, my first gig moving to LA was Shaka Khan, and I got that gig at church subbing for another drummer, Day. Day is the drummer for DJ Hammond, which is his little brother. He was on tour with Rihanna. You know, I grew up in church playing, you know, moving to LA. I haven't played at church much because I've been on the road a lot. But I did get that gig in church. But the J-Lo gig, that was my first pop gig. Now, we normally when you rehearse a pop gig, you have the band in one room, and then you have the dancers in another room. So what they do is, of course, they are choreographing to the record. So then the band is playing, you know, we had always the choreographer comes in and say, we want, you know, pop, pop, pop here and break here, drum roll there, you know. So we play all these things, you know, in my first rehearsal, you know, I'm playing, you know, and the MD is like, you know, play a lick here, you know, fill it up there or do a lead in here. And so we all get together in one big room to rehearse the show, and they stop the music, and it's like the drummer's messing up. And I'm like, what do you mean the drummer's messing up? I'm playing the same thing, I'm playing the part. It was like, no. They played the recording back, and they said, where's that? They choreographed to the licks I played. So I had to play the same licks night in, night out. I had to remaster my own licks. You know, you can play something, you just feel it. You know what I mean? But now I got to play it note for note every night, or somebody's going to look at me crazy for me improvising. You know what I mean? So those are things you have to think about if this is what you want to do on a mainstream gig. Prime example. I'm not going to call his name, of course, but it was a keyboard player when I first got the J-Lo gig. Amazing keyboard player. I mean, this guy, he's played with a lot of different people. Okay, he's played with a lot of different people. LA legend, you know, even though, you know, we're probably about the same age. I ain't that old, but he's an LA legend. And I mean, he would just floor me every night. Like he would be sitting behind me, you know, standing up behind me on the risers that we're on, and he'll play something. And I'm like, you know, I got this face looking back at him. And after the first show, J-Lo goes, the music doesn't sound right. So somebody was messing up tonight. I don't know what happened. Next show, is something going on with the keyboards? That's not the right part. To us, he's killing. He's straight killing. I mean, some of the most amazing stuff I've heard. He was there 3 weeks and got fired. 3 weeks, all because he couldn't play a simple triad chord and stay disciplined enough to just play the simple stuff. You know, if this is what you want to do, of course, you know, if somebody say play me a major second chord, or you know, whatever these different types of chords, you need to know how to play those. One last thing, and I'm gonna give it to you. One person that saved my life on how to learn music, or if you don't have time to learn it by heart, chart it out. Chris Coleman was subbing for me when I was on the road with Shaka in my church in LA. And I get back and I see, you know, these sheets of paper, and I'm like, you know, wow. You know, I'm used to seeing sheet music, but he wrote his own cheat sheet. And I'm not talking about bottom, bop, bop, boom, 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 stuff like that. No, real notes on a sheet of notebook paper. He had the verse 8 bars, pre-chorus 8 bars, chorus, little stuff like that will help you a long way. And also writing the drum pattern out for that song at the very top, so you know what you're playing. That saved me when you're talking about we had to do the New Kids on the Block gig. I got called not too long ago to play with Layla Hathaway. My first show with her was in October of last year. And the drummer that she had, for some reason, he couldn't play the songs with the right feel and couldn't retain the songs. And they were rehearsing all day, every day. So before the tour started, they fired her. They gave a call to a good friend of mine, Gordon Campbell. He couldn't do it. And they said, we need somebody who can learn the songs, that's going to play like the record, no rehearsals, show up and do the gig. He sent me the music, just like he said, sent me the music. I didn't hear anything from Eric Smith anymore. He said, these are the songs, be on the plane, such and such, you get paid this, blah. And everything else was left up to me. They sent me the rehearsals. I charted everything out. Now, not to, boast of myself or anything like that, but she told me I'm the first drummer to ever come in and know her show like the back of my hand. But I didn't know it. I was reading. So it pays to learn how to read music, even if you're not reading sheet music, if you can just write your own charts down. And if anybody want to ask me how to do that, I can show you how to do that. It's very easy, but to save your mind and to save you headaches, especially if you got more stuff going on, 3 or 4 gigs, you need to learn different music. This will help you out a whole lot. That's all I can say. John.
I actually witnessed Streeter come on the gig, and he knocked it out of the park, man. It was impressive. Because they were rehearsing like doing sound check. You could tell that he boned up on his stuff. When you talk about the mainstream gig, and a lot of stuff comes into play that I heard here. Skill set, versatility, maturity, discipline, which goes along with maturity, because you have to be able to resist those urges, because you'll be in the setting where the groove gets good, and you ready to shine. You got thousands of people looking at you, and it'll come on you, man. Come on, throw this passing chord in here. You know what I'm saying? Don't do a couple of diminishes. You have to resist those urges. And that only comes with, with discipline. You also have to have versatility. I'm a stickler on this. I tell and musicians who know me, I always talk about having a vast musical toolbox. Meaning, you have to be, especially on the main stage, on the mainstream gig, have to be a fan of multiple genres of music. God told me this, man. If you don't like disco, I'm sure there's some type of disco out there that'll catch your attention. Become a fan of it. You know what I'm saying? I was blessed, tremendously blessed, to be able to play with George Duke, Earl Clue, all the people who I listen to, who I respect. I was fortunate and blessed to play with them, but I was already fans of their music. I'm currently Eric Benet's music director, but before I even knew Eric Benet personally, I was his #1 fan, man. I wasn't a song you couldn't pull up that I didn't know how to play, that I didn't listen to and I studied. I knew the nuances of it, little synth things that come in here, and that was impressive when I got to rehearsal back in 2010. To play with him, because he was like, nobody ever even played there before. But me being a fan of his music, so you have to have that versatility. I usually do the Capital Jazz Cruise, which is, it happens every year. And you have a conglomerate of like 50, 60 artists that come, and they have one big band that they split off into different sections to play with different artists around the bowl. And at any given moment, somebody could get fired off of a gig or something like that, and the MD, who's over the entire cruise band, will come and be like, look, I need you to go play with this person. Now you have to shine, you know what I'm saying? Now this is where your skill set comes in. This is where your maturity comes in. This is where learning the music. I'll add this too. For keyboard players, guitarists, learn theory. learn theory, learn to at least read a chord chart, because it'll help you along the way. I've been teaching myself to read music. I'm not good at sight reading, but I can read music, which helped me out. So guy gets fired from a gig, they come to you like, we need you to go play with this artist, and they come and they just hand you charts. They hand you charts, and they're playing 2 days from now. And you have to learn this stuff, right? So this is where all of this stuff that these gentlemen are talking about comes into play. And this is the main stage, because they don't pay you for excuses. You know what I'm saying? They want results, and they want it now. They don't want to, I didn't have enough time to learn this. I didn't have enough, no, you're a professional. This is the main stage. And all of this comes from your practicing, your craft, your beefing up your skill level, having a strong musical IQ. That goes a long way. As it relates to placement, where you're gonna play stuff, with keyboard players, sounds.
Yes.
You gotta know how to layer sounds. I was on a gig for Peebo pricing, where I had to play the strings, and I couldn't play them like I played a Hammond organ. You just couldn't pan it. You had to go learn string parts. You see them moving, you see the cello, and you have to set up your sounds accordingly because they want that sound. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what it takes for a main string gig. You have to be able to accommodate all of that. And when you do that, people call you. I got an opportunity to play with Nathan East. And I was nervous, this is Nathan East. I got video of it because Bob James came up and did one song with him. It was like heaven came down. And I was like a kid in a candy store.
Right.
And I'm looking at Bob James, looking at Nathan East, all of these heavy hitters around. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I played my part. After that gig, I went and took a picture with him. I was like, look, man, thank you for allowing me to play with you. I was about to walk off. He grabbed me. No, hold up. Got his manager. I need his number. We got to do this again. Wow. And that's how you get callbacks, because you're dependable. You bring results. You produce results. You know your music, right? You don't come in, you ain't trying to outshine nobody. You have great personality, because people like to play with people they like to be around, right? Yes. So you have great character, they know they can depend on you. And all of that stuff really culminates when it comes to mainstream gigs, and you get to play with artists like Chris Pat and Charles Streeter, all them play with, man. Folk call you all the time. And they'll spread the word around too. And you'll find yourself, the people who you respect will respect you. You know what I'm saying? And that'll be worth more than the applause of the multitude. You know what I'm saying? Getting respect of those whom you respect, whom you look up to. And I guess that's all for now.
You good, man.
All right, I'm Jason Clark. I'm the executive director for the Tennessee Mass Bar. I like fried chicken and red Kool-Aid. And I do not like the Dallas Cowboys. I had to say that. I'm glad they're gonna be at home. But one thing, actually, I'm going to be talking about the producer. One thing I'm going to be talking about is the producer gig. One question I always get quite a bit is like, what is a producer? What does a producer do? And that's a loaded question. Because honestly, and really many of us are producers up here. We wear many hats in the studio. From being the decision makers to being counselors for artists. Just being honest with you. But just to kind of sum it up in one sentence, one thing that I say is that to be a music producer, you have to have the ability to foresee and to hear the end product from the beginning. And you have to make the right decisions to get to that destination. And that's what a music producer is all about. You don't necessarily have to play to be a great producer. It helps. You don't necessarily have to sing to be a great producer. It helps. You know, everybody can't sing like Marquis. Y'all didn't know he could sing. and Jay Rich right here. But I mean, the thing about it is, it helps. But at the same time, it's not fully necessary that you have that as long as you are able to make those proper decisions. Now, one thing about music production, it's always based on your opinion, your viewpoint. You know, the way that, you know, you view a certain thing or whatever. And so what comes along with those decisions, and they even talked about it when it comes to MDing a gig, is number one, even if you don't, you know, program all your own music, you have to pull together the right team. You have to pull together the right team. All right. One thing that I always say is, I mean, I'll say this. I'll say pretty much the last 3 projects, I'll say the majority of those records I didn't even play them. I called Tim. I can't play drums. I called Chris, called Lance Lucas, called different people. And they asked me, why you ain't playing? I said, because I got y'all. I don't have to play, you know. And as a music producer, you know, one thing that, say for instance, there was a church number that we had. I'm thinking to myself, well, I know I can't church, who I need to call? Oh, let me call Tim, all right? On Tennessee Band's record right now, I have about 3 or 4 different sets of bands on this record, simply because I wanted the right feel for every single song. It wasn't about just getting my friends who could play and just getting them to come and y'all play everything. No, I know Tim specializes in church on that piano. He kills it. You see what I'm saying? I know Lance specializes in certain things on the organ. He kills that. I know Chris Pat gives me a certain feel on certain songs. I know Fat Pat, which is Skinny Pat now, he gives me a certain feel on church. You see what I'm saying? So it's the ability to make those decisions to pull the right team together. You see what I'm saying? In order to do that. Now, one thing as a producer, one thing that I hate is for somebody to bring, I'll tell you about the story. This lady brought her daughter to me and say, Miss Jason, I'm telling you, my daughter is the next Beyonce. That's my first initial look or whatever, you know. So one thing as a producer, it's up to us to be honest with every artist that comes before us. We have to be, you know, sometimes we have to be brutally honest because of the simple fact we're holding someone's career at stake at that point. Your lady brought her daughter to me, and she was like, she's going to be the next Beyonce. She can sing, she can write, she can dance, she can do all this or whatever, you know. And so I was like, okay. I was like, well, you know, let me hear you sing something. She started singing, and in my mind, I was like, oh, okay, well, I figured it was going to go like that. All right. So I was like, well, let me see you dance. She danced. The whole time, her mama looking at me like, yeah, she good. And so she asked me, she said, all right, you know, what you think? I was like, ma'am, I think she should dance. Because she's not a singer. The little girl broke down and started crying. I felt so bad. I was like, man, I hurt this girl feelings. I was like, baby, I'm so sorry, but singing is just not for you. She's like, no. She's like, I know it's not. My mama want me to sing. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, you need to listen to your daughter. I mean, she wants to be a dancer. You see what I'm saying? And so, you know, one thing like going back to the beginning, just like I said, you know, when it comes down to making those right decisions, that's the one thing that we really have to do. Even though our right decisions is based on our opinion, at the same time, when you have experienced producers, 9 times out of 10, we're not going to steer you in the wrong direction. All right. Another thing that I want to talk about, especially because this is a gospel setting, musicians, a lot of you all are too busy on these records. Way too busy with your music, to the point the message can't even come through because you're doing all these runs and licks and stuff like that. Chris Pat talked about the greatest of all time, which is recorded by the Tennessee Bass Choir. Tony Dixon wrote an amazing tune. Amen. Wrote an amazing tune. When Tony first brought me the song, it didn't sound anything like what you hear on the record right now. The way it went, he was like, man, I want you to hear something something. He was like, dun 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 dun, dun. You are the greatest, dun dun. You are the greatest, dun dun. He was going like that. Okay, I was listening. I was like, okay, Tom. I said, stop playing and just sing the song for me. He sung. I said, yeah, I ain't lying. Yeah, I said, stop playing. I said, sing the song for me. And so he started singing, and I listened to it. I just sat there for a minute. By the time he got through singing, I said, man, this is gonna be one of the biggest songs that you've ever written.
Wow.
You know, and I mean, he can attest to that. I was like, this is gonna be one of the biggest songs that you've ever written, because he brought his gift of songwriting in and coupled it with my gift, ability to hear the end result, even while he was just sitting there singing. What you're hearing right now is what I was hearing while he was singing that to me as a music producer. It took a process to get to that though. And the thing about it is I had to trust that process. I didn't want to rush it. I think I worked on that song for about a good 4 months, 4 or 5 months, then Tom. I worked on it about 4 or 5 months. And so we were working already from the top. I already knew I wanted Chris Pat on the drums. We started talking about musicians. I was like, I want Chris Pat. Brought him in on the session and everything. I was like, as far as lead, I was like, I could probably get, Steve-O or JB. He's one of those, they're kind of, nailing on lead. On bass, I was like, well, I got to get Jack, all right? The day of the session, Jackie was actually sick. He was sick that day, all right? So I brought in Randy, and Randy Polk is an amazing bass player. He came in, he killed everything like that. Everything was going. We had the foundation laid. However, in the studio, even with Randy killing, that still wasn't the sound that I heard as a producer. It wasn't it. And everybody else was like, man, that's cool, leave it alone, leave it. I said, no, man, I gotta get Jack on this mug. Jack played that mug. I said, that's the sound. And everybody was like, yeah, man, that's the sound right there. You see what I'm saying? Because of some of that, as a producer, again, it's up to us to make those right calls. You see what I'm saying? It's not about, I'm all about, trying to use tact and things like that. But when it comes down to making business decisions, one thing I always say is, when it comes to preparing for a concert, you prepare music for people in the room. But when you're doing a record, producing a record, you're producing music for people all across the world. Amen. Once that CD goes out and get on that radio and goes everywhere, you can't get it back at that point. Right. So you have to have a producer, a capable producer, that's going to represent you well. Also, another point is, as a producer, we are extensions of the artist's vision. We're the extension of that artist's vision. We don't bring in artists and be like, no, you got to do it my way, or we ain't gonna work together. You ain't got to be like that. You're at service to that artist. What you want to do is, every session that you have, everybody around you, from every player to every songwriter to every artist, musician, they need to go away growing, having grown after working with you. You see what I'm saying? And so therefore, one thing that you really have to do is take that artist's vision, take that vision to a whole other level. And that's what we're called to do as music producers, And one final story that I want to leave you with, because my time is up, what really got me into music production is the fact that Chris and I, a lot of you may not know, we played for the Voices Being Helped a long time ago. We got a chance to MD and be musicians on 3 or 4 records together, and we were playing I Search the World Over by Kevin Davidson and the Voices Being Helped back in the day. And so Derek Lee came in, and he took over the record as a music producer, And so this particular project, I was playing keys on one particular song. And I actually felt like I wasn't doing enough, on the piano or whatever. I felt like I needed to be all over the place or whatever. But when we got in the studio, I was just like, well, I'm really not what I'm hearing and what I want to do. I know that don't necessarily fit. So I just kind of played the part and everything like that. And as I got through playing, I went to the bathroom, sat up against the wall. I was like, man, that man gonna think I'm sorry and all this and that, whatever, Derek Lee came out, he said, man, do you know you are one of the most disciplined keyboard players as being a young guy that I've ever heard. He was like, most guys would have been busy all over the place and everything like that. I was like, man, well, it might be something to simplicity. So one last thing I want to leave you with is, when you're producing a record, a lot of times less is more. Sometimes production is in the pauses. Think about the song, one of the greatest songs that Prince ever written was Purple Rain. I never meant to cause you in a sorrow, pause. I never meant to cause you any pain, pause. I ain't gonna say it. But I'm just saying, I'm just saying, the thing about that particular song, fans are always holding on for that next line. They like, man, here come. Ooh, here come. Ooh, you know what I'm saying? He didn't have to do a whole lot of licks in there. I never meant to cause you in the song. I never meant to cause you in pain. He ain't take all that. The production was in the pauses on that song. So as music producers, let your songs breathe. Let it breathe. Let people hear the message in the music. If you want to shine, create a moment where the band shines. In the greatest of all time. The only time where the band shines is in the intro. That's it. The intro is the hardest part of that whole song. You know, am I lying, Chris? The intro is the hardest part of that whole song. That's where the band shines. So that's the last point I really want to make. Allow your projects and your music to breathe. And I'm telling you, you will find yourself having better and better productions as you go along. Amen.
Blues Alley is it's the same principles and rubrics that stand across the board. I'm not patting myself for Mississippi Boulevard. When I'm looking for musicians, I'm expecting them to cover across the board. Right. I'm not interested in a shout track. I can go out on the street and get a shout track. I don't mean no harm. I'm looking across the board. For MLK Sunday, we went from, Chris, what did we do? We went from poet Langston Hughes' poem by Roland Carter to Stevie Wonder's Living in the City. If I give it, I want them expecting them to say, I don't have a fear for Stevie Wonder. Well, you get up and leave.
Right, exactly.
You prepare yourself as such, as an individual. Everybody stay with me, please. This is important. This is why we're missing gigs. You prepare yourself as such and have professional acumen as such that they're going to pull you out if you play for Beulah Baptist. It doesn't matter. That's the person I want right there. They're on time. They know their music. They function. I can depend on them. The word is out. I already know some of you, and you don't even know I know you. Your reputation already stands out there. Dependable, Dr. Davis, that's the one. In case so-and-so, I'm always looking ahead. That's the one. She's got it. He's got it. They don't have it. Can't depend on it. Show up, they'll come 15 minutes late. How do you do a gig like that? Everybody look this way, just real quick. How do you do a gig like that? You'll never play mainstream if you can't be on time for church. Or funeral or something simple. Chris calls you to sub for him, you can't show up in the bed. It's Luke, I have written you off, you never do nothing for me again. It takes one time, I give you one time. And I know that sounds far-fetched, but guess what? That's the day and time that we're living in. People make quick decisions. Look this way, please. People are changing their mind at church. It doesn't take them but one bloop at church, and guess what they say? I'm not coming back.
That's right.
They miss the words on the screen are wrong. They can't spell. I'm not coming back.
You're right.
I'm going to Blues Alley. I paid $20 for that. I got to hear Mariah Carey sing like that. She'll never get my money again. You know the decisions you make. I make them.
Yes, yes.
Let me go down to Bodyguard and hear one slip up. It's just the way the world that we live in. So market yourself. It's not about when you guys talk about, I want to go mainstream. I want to go. I've had several guys leave. Have we not, Chris? Several of them leave to go to LA. I booed them right off. They said, this is where the Lord is calling. Go right on to LA. There was one I was wondering, Pam Rob, I don't know what you're going for, because lazy. I tell him to his face. You're lazy. So, you know, I really want to put in center. Memphis has so much an array of talent that I'm blown away. I'm not going to take a lot of time, moving on. An array of talent that I'm blown away by. But what upsets me and pisses me off, excuse me, with Memphis, is that it's this like somebody owes us something. Right. It's that level of entitlement. I don't have to be. It's because man, this folks sleeping around. This folks waiting on your stuff. I tell these high school kids here, you have to think they're doing something. I got a 30 on the ACT. I said, these Asians on the coastal lines of the East Coast school, they spitting out 34s on the ACTs like it's just, you know, like I'm eating Cheerios. We got to raise our game, you all. Memphis has got it, but we got to continue to raise the game. Next thing I'll give.
Hello to everyone. I'm Tony Barnshaw Dickerson.
Barnshaw.
I'm from Covington, Tennessee. I'm a country boy. I serve in the music ministry at Canaan Grove Baptist Church as one of the leaders there. I'm the founder of Tony and the Essential Band, and also the founder of the Greater Memphis Songwriters Guild, and the founder of Barnshaw School of Music. That's a little bit about me. Marcus kind of wanted me to touch on, sound like I'm in church, like my grandma made him touch on. Everybody knew what I was talking about, so that's cool. I know I had these on, and I do wear shades and stuff a lot, but my real glasses broke on me. I'm still waiting on them to come back from the VA. I'm a veteran. So I'm using these, my reading glasses, but thank you. I did serve the country for 4 years on a ship. Wow. He wanted me to speak on about how to make this last for you. I started in that game a little late, but I'm hoping that we can encourage a lot of you all, especially the younger ones, to start in it early. And what I'm referring to is knowing the business of what you're doing. We hear all the time that you hear 90% of it is business and 10% is talent. I've changed that, okay, so y'all follow me. I think it's like 98% business and maybe 2% talent. Everybody can do everything now. Everybody can sing, everybody can play, everybody can write and do all those things. I have 4 children and a grandson. I'm considering, and I'm thinking about now, leaving something for them. How do I do that? Because I'm not always going to be able to hit the stage. You know, I do play, but that's not my biggest thing right now. So in my songwriting, things of that nature, and that's why we came up with the Greater Memphis Songwriters Guild, is to try to help us. What do you do when you can't hit the stage? How do you continue to get paid? Well, it's a lot of things that we can find out about, and I don't know why God just chose me to be the one to do the research and to try to find out this information to help so many of you. It makes me feel great when I've assisted someone. I've assisted people to the point to where they had music playing, they've been performing their music, they traveling, it's on the radio, maybe some TV and stuff, but they've never seen a royalty check. That baffled me. I said, I don't want to be in a position. So I'm trying to find out all the avenues and everything that it is possibly for a musician, or songwriters, or whatever you are in the music industry, where you can get some royalties. So we want to make sure, let's deal with that. Basically, there are 2 forms of royalties. You have your performance royalties and you have your mechanical royalties. Performance royalties deals with like your radio play and when you're performing out live. Performance rights organization, BMI, in which I'm a member of, they have this thing called BMI Live. And that it doesn't mean, all it simply means is whenever you perform your songs, your original material, that you get a percentage from that. You just report it into your performance rights organization, let them know the date. They're gonna ask you a few questions. You put all that down, that information down. They're gonna ask you where it was, the date it was, the time, how many people who attended, was it a ticketed event or not? All that information, but it helps. So, say the greatest of all time wasn't getting a lot of airplay, which it is. If that didn't happen, I can use I'm thankful for Dr. Leo. Each time that I came to Mississippi Boulevard to perform the song, I reported that, and that goes to they ask, and I'm glad y'all have a lot of people there every time because that helps out. But it's just a bunch of little simple things that we can know about, but we don't. Because a lot of times, I think it's been because of pride, and we don't want to let anybody know that we don't, really understand. The biggest thing that I want us to do is to get beyond that and learn about the business part of it. If this is something that you really want to do, learn about the ins and outs about it. So songwriting is what I do. That's what I do. So I'm trying to find out all the information that I possibly can about it. So performance royalties deal with like radio, television, film, et cetera, your live performances. That's an income from that. But you first got to be a performance right. You got to be a part of a performance rights organization. There's no other way. You have BMI, you have ASCAP, and CSAC. All right. So whichever one that you do research, find out whichever one works best for you. Get it. But you can't be around talking about because you sit around with the great Chris Morris and he might be working on something, a song, and he's playing stuff, and then you sit over there and you're a musician on whatever other instrument, you say, man, get my points. You're saying stuff prematurely that you're not really aware of what you're talking about. You can get those, but you have to first be a member of what? A performance rights organization. Performance rights organization. So let's get that first. Mechanicals, the music industry, all this stuff, information, it changes really daily now. Mechanical royalties deals with CDs, the print-ups, and all of that, and even now, a lot of the digital downloads and all that stuff. So that's what mechanicals deal with. I'm gonna give the example based on CDs. So it's not a whole lot, but it can add up. And then if you get the right lick or the right hit, then they're gonna keep on reproducing that CD each time. So you get like close to $10 per CD or however many songs you have on it. So like if you had 2 songs on it, you'd probably get like 20 cents, and then so per CD. So if they per unit exactly, if they have like 1,000 printed, then you do the math on that. And each time that they print it up, then they're responsible to report it to you. And if not, you need to report to them and find out, keep that. That's why it's good to maybe have an entertainment attorney, lined up with you as well. But that's how mechanical royalties work. So those two monies right there. Then we get into publishing. All right. We get into publishing, as you can be a writer, a member of a writer, performance rights organization, but it's also good to be publishing. And you can't just use that word loosely. Publishing is more than just saying, I got my publishing. You have to do the work of a publisher. And that means you have to try to make sure that it gets into these different places, get into TV, get into radio, get into plays or whatever the case may be. You want to make sure, and then you also got to be considerate of the administrative part of it. You got to make sure that everybody's getting their percentages, that there was a part on this particular song that are supposed to get royalties or what have you. So it's really more than just saying I have my publishing company. It's a lot of work that's involved in that. So a lot of times most musicians don't have time to do that or whatever the case may be. So you find someone that can do those things for you, and it works to your advantage. They want a percentage, and they deserve a percentage because they have a lot of work to keep your music and to keep your songs flowing and to get it all around throughout the country. And we trust God because even we're speaking a lot on the greatest of all time because God has been good. I think He's doing that song so well because we acknowledge who He really is. we compare so much to what man can do, and we're worried about all this, but I just had to bring it back to our memory who the greatest of all time really is. So then we deal with, I talked about the performance rights organizations already, copyright. LOVE feels good to me. LOVE feels good to me. All right? So if I wrote that down on my paper right now, and I wrote the song out, wrote the title, I signed it, I put the copyright trademark on there, then guess what? Anybody know? It's yours, but it's considered copywritten. At that moment, the moment that it's in a fixed form, it's considered copywritten. Yeah, you have to go to the Library of Congress, and that's really, I don't want to discourage anyone from sending it to DC. You know, every time, I think it's like $40 or $50 now, maybe per song or whatever. You can do it in volumes or however you want to do it. But copyright is just that simple. You record it, that's a fixed form. You write it down, that's a fixed form. And any kind of thing that you documented in, it's a fixed form. You just sign it and date it and put the copyright trademark on it. The only time that you really have to be in fear of a copyright situation and when it deals with copyright infringement, all right? And really, my attorney told me, he said, well, Tony, you're a good writer, you're a great writer and stuff, but unless you own the Prince, Michael Jackson level, or Marvin Gaye, you don't really have to worry about a copyright infringement situation. So I'm not saying don't send in your money and don't do that, but I'm just telling you what actually works. Okay. So dealing with copyrights, and then the biggest thing, two of the biggest things that, and I'm just going to answer the question and I'll be done with it. Marcus was asking, saying, how do musicians get their points or get their credits or be able to get some royalties? Two ways. One is I kind of recommend the work for hire type situation, unless you're going to really play a real intricate part, unless you got a riff or a lick or a chord or something that's going to be like the hook of the song, and that's what everybody's going to actually hear, a signature note or chord or whatever, and that's what everybody's going to be, humming and singing all the time, then I encourage you to sit down, with a split sheet. And you all be men or women, what have you, ladies, and handle business. We're so afraid, a lot of us, I've been guilty of it, we're so afraid of handling business and doing contracts and stuff, it's a shame. So I want to encourage all of us to don't get beyond that point, because what you don't want on the back end, when something pops off really good, then there's a big fight, because everybody trying to say what they did and all this, and you didn't do this. So squash that at the beginning. Jason and I are really great at doing that. We said, all right, man, let's see, 20% here, 30%. We get that taken care of right and stuff. So now when stuff is happening, nobody has to worry about what's going on. So, but if you just a session musician and you coming in and you playing on someone's recorded, then the work for hire, you just set your price or whatever and get that and be done with it. But if you feel like it's a little deeper than that, then you sit down and y'all just be honest about who contributed what to the song. Thank you, it's my time. So I'm talking about after the gig. So I got a question. Okay. And this series right now. So what do you do when the gig stops? Anybody can answer that? Say that again.
Speak up. Say it again. What you say, sir? Pack down.
No, like when the gigs, when it's like you got like 2 or 3 weeks of no gigs.
Be prepared. So let's say a hand. Let me say her hand with an intelligible answer. A hand, please. What do you do for 2 or 3 weeks? Yes, sir.
You need to keep preparing for the next.
That's good. Anybody else?
Another hand? Sir.
Practicing and marking.
Practicing and marking? That's cool.
Anybody else? One more?
Good job. There you go. All right, so I'm gonna talk about this, and I'm gonna be real quick because I know the other guys gotta speak. So a lot of you know I play drums or whatever, and I know y'all like the videos. I'm like playing all the time, but a lot of you didn't know like some of the videos that I was posting that kind of went like real viral. I was like just getting out of school when I posted those videos. So I'll be in class for like all day, every day, during the summer while everybody's asleep and, you know, playing football and doing all this. I was in school, so I gotta go back to the beginning and tell this story right quick. So this man, Dr. Davis, when I got to Mississippi Boulevard, I was actually taking a break from school, and he sat down and talked to me. He was like, so what about school? I was like, man, I'm taking a break from school. And he was like, that's not funny, because I started laughing. He was like, no, that's not funny. And he was like, I'm gonna give you 6 months. I know, you remember this. He said, I'm gonna give you 6 months to start back school. If you don't start back school, you're gone. So I'm like, man, like, this crazy. I'm like, man, so I had to make a decision. So my parents, they was always telling me about go back, finish school. I tried the music thing in school, but honestly, I was like, when I was there, I was like majoring in music performance and music education and stuff. And I was like, man, I know this stuff. It was kind of getting boring to me because I learned how to read music. I was learning everything, but I'm like, man, they can't teach me how to be a professional musician. It's gonna look good on paper. Like for the type of gigs that I want to do, I'm like, it's not gonna require a degree. Some of these guys, I'm sure, don't even have a degree in playing, you know, like music, but they getting the gig. So I stopped doing that. So my next thing, I was like wanting to study in dentistry. So I went for it, man. And it was a hard thing. So I went to school. Started going every day. Chris can tell y'all coming to band rehearsal. They had to push band rehearsal back because I'm late, because I'm getting out of school and, you know, late and stuff like that. So I went to school and I graduated. A lot of you know I do dental assistant and orthodontic assistant. I put on braces and I do a lot of other dentistry stuff. Long story short, man, I just want to encourage all of the younger guys, man, do something. Like, get something, you know, outside of music. Like, for real. Man, this serious, like, honestly, I promise you I didn't want to go to school. Like, I was like, man, some days I didn't want to get up, but I did it. And like I said, I was still playing drums, like, every day when I got out of school. I was like, man, I got to go play today. I got to go do this. So
it's important. You know, there's so many of us, so many aspirations for keyboardists and musicians that they want to, this is all I'm going to do. Well, what do you do in the day? I don't do anything. I just look when people say that. I'm really, really puzzled that you play organ and you don't do anything else all day. I don't care what they're paying you. They could be paying you $60,000. But if you've got that much time in the day to add on to another income that you can put in the bank and not even touch, you see what I'm saying? We've got to think that way. We have to have Chris has several streams of income. The scripture talks about that. You got to have several streams of income. This is the day and time that we're living in. It's not just this and only this. My baby boomer age, my age, everybody look this way. It's over. There's no more people, listen you all, they're not doing this anymore. Everybody look this way. They're not staying and working at a church 27 years anymore. That's out.
Right.
I think my pastor realized that, dude, you can forget the next one. The next one's going to be a producer doing something else, and they're going to offer his time, or he's teaching at the University of Memphis, and we're going to let the student do it. But dude, they're not doing that. They're not doing this anymore. This millennial age, they're not committed like that. And that's not negative. It's just the world that we live in. So aspire to do some other things.
Kurt and Tim, speaking as MDs, I just got to drop this real fast. Dr. Davis said, what is that one thing? One of the things you got to have, the MD must be a thinker. You have to be able to troubleshoot on the spot, quickly. If anything shifts, you have to be on top of it because, again, you're driving. And the train goes where the driver takes it. And if you derail as the driver, the band derails. Don Lawrence taught me, Chris, in order to work with me, he was talking about himself. He said, you must outthink a thinker. Don Lawrence is a thinker. He's brilliant. He's a genius. And he says, in order to be my music director, you have to outthink me, and you'll never do it. And he said, in order to work with me, you have to have plans A, B, C, D, E, and F already mapped out. And that's how us as music directors, you know, and I know they do the same thing. Even drummers, Charles, you have to be able, Jonathan, Chris, everybody up here, you have to be able to think beyond the moment. Because if anything happens, I gotta have plan B already locked in. If that didn't work, C has got to come on board. All right, that was just for free. Off the gig, okay? The top reasons why musicians will get fired. This is really bigger than church and bigger than it's across the board. All right? Damaging company property. All right? You can just say ouch when it hits you, because all of you know somebody who's done it. Drug or alcohol possession at work.
Yep.
Insubordination. Misconduct. Poor performance. Don't know your music. Poor performance. Stealing. And that's a big one. You got musicians, it's really big, and it's really bad on the drummer scene. And I'm not a drummer, but I know that. Cymbals, foot pedals, snares, right. Yep. I mean, full kits. Yep. No lie. Hey, and look, I'm super quick, real talk.
MPC?
Man, MPs, full rigs. I mean, just gone. Yeah, stealing. Using company property for personal business. Taking the stuff from the church is at the house. Yeah, I know you're doing it. Okay. Look, taking too much time off. Now, Dr. Davis, as a minister of music, you a minister of music, Shirley and Billy and the other, Jamie and all the other, and Deborah, all the other, you can't go to your minister of music and ask for time off every other week. You just can't do it. It's not feasible unless you have that understanding up front. You know, if you are Charles Streeter and coming to my church, I know you are already working. So that if I hire you with that understanding. But there's a lot that comes with that. You want to take time off, but you don't have a viable sub in place. Your sub has got to be better than you. Your sub should be equal or better than you. You cannot bring me three grades under you. All right? Those things will get you off the gig. Violating company policy. Let me also go here. First of all, Tennessee is an at-will state, meaning that you can be terminated, fired for no reason at all. Your pastor or the artist can wake up tomorrow and just say, I just want to go in a different direction. Have you seen the curve? Just wipe the whole band out and start afresh. They can do that. So there's no you can be let go for no reason, which really ties into what Tevin said. What happens? Are you prepared to be let go? What happens if most of you all, this doesn't apply to me because I'm smarter than that now. I used to be where you are. But if you got let go Sunday, you are stressing because your car note is due. And you working from check to check. So being let go from the gig, you got to think bigger than that. I don't need to be let go from the gig, and I don't have anything else in place. See, you got to think big. That's where that maturity comes in. You have children. You have child support. Your gift is bigger than just you. You got a family to feed, and you got an ego talking about, man, I'm walking on like the way you treat me, huh? What is that about? My dad cleaned bathrooms for a living, worked at Clio Rap. Your parents worked, your fathers and mothers worked all kind of odd jobs every day. They weren't glamorous jobs. To keep the lights on, they sucked their pride up, they didn't have an ego, they did what they had to do to provide for their families. But we are musicians, we glorious, we angels, we angelic. That's how we do it. Let me tell you a personal story of mine. I'm gonna be very, very transparent, I'm gonna let it go at this. I traveled with Donald Lawrence for 15 years. And when I say travel with him, I was his music director. 15 years. That's longer than most of y'all been at any church. If you've been at a church longer than 15 years, it's probably only about 10 or 15 people that can raise their hand and say that. So that's a long time in musician years to be with one artist. 15 years. I always prayed and I said, God, you know, I have been fired from churches before, like all of y'all, us. I've been let go from a church before for sleeping with the wrong person. I have. Slept with a young lady, got canned. I was making $75,000 a year. Walked in church with a job, walked out of church without a job. I learned a valuable lesson. You don't sleep where you eat. All right? Being very transparent. Working with Donald Lawrence, I said, God, I don't ever want to be let go. When I lost that job, I said, no. I will never be let go from another job again. I never wanted to be terminated, ever again. Ever. Working with him, I said, God, when it's my time to go, let me see it, and let me know when it's time for me to walk away versus being terminated. Termination fired on your resume is never good. It's always a red flag. Always a red flag. It's never, ever positive. I said, God, let me see when it's my time to be up, because a lot of us, we covet the gig. We don't even know our time is up, and God wanted to give it to somebody else. But you covet the gig. You don't want to let it go. Aaron's supposed to be the music director, and I'm still trying to hold on to it. I said, God, give me insight. I missed one, out of 15 years, I can count on one hand how many flights I missed. 15 years. I can count on one hand how many flights I missed. I started bodybuilding. My body shut down after a bodybuilding show. I woke up, I was supposed to be on a plane at 5 o'clock in the morning. I would open my eyes, I saw sunlight. I knew something was wrong. I missed a flight. As a music director, couldn't get another flight in. And God let me see my time was nearing the end. I wrote Donald a letter. I spoke with him. I said, it's time for me to step down as your music director, so that I could keep the relationship healthy. Donald texted me this morning out the blue, because we still have a great relationship. He didn't have to fire me. He didn't have to terminate me. I knew it was my time to go, because God was trying to elevate me. He was trying to say, it's time for your own business to flourish. Now I'm doing personal training. I don't even do music. I don't even desire it. I used to desire that. I've been there. I've done that. I've done the Grammys. I won the Grammys. I got all that. I make more money now not desiring to do the music than I ever did. Got my tithe and offering statements today. I probably gave in excess of almost $25,000 in church. That's more than some of y'all made in a year. Because I'm faithful to tithing, I'm faithful to offerings. And I know that I've got, like all of these guys, like he just said, a lot of the principles are just linear. On time, being prepared, thinkers, dynamics, the band, you know your role, how to get along, what is your conversation like? Can Dr. Davis bring me in a room with Edwin Hawkins and I speak with and articulate, and he's not embarrassed? Right. All those things where you can't shuck and jive, you know, and think that's what's you want to go to LA, but you can't even, it's a lot. It's a lot. Just know that your gig can be taken away from you at the drop of a dime. And you better prepare for that. You also need to make sure that you do what you do. Man, big ups to these young guys coming up. They hungry. They watching. They learning what we know now, 40 at 15 and 13. I'm telling you, my gig is never secure, ever. I already know. They coming for my neck. And the only way that I can't outplay all these people. Deborah Flagg is the first person, she taught me music. This is why I play right here. This young lady, she know I tell it every time I go. She is the reason why I play. She might not be the most, she's not the Derrick Jackson of the group, but she's anointed. She showed me what anointing can do. So just know that it's certain levels. You understand what I'm saying? Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you all for giving me this time, Marcus. I really do. You have any questions, hit me up, inbox me, get at me. I'll definitely break bread with you. All right? Amen.
To say something about the female musicians from a lady's perspective. For so many years, and I've been in music over 30 years. I have been in and out of town, as far as Hawaii, Bermuda, Florida, doing music. And my thing is, I keep a level head, because when I go out and I see nothing but men everywhere. When I walk up on the stage and get ready to play for a praise team or choir or soloist, and I see nothing but guys behind me, sometimes I get intimidated. But I have to realize who I am. Where I've come from, the training that I have, not only that, the anointing that God has given me. And what I do, I don't try to just push my way. I don't try to make people think I'm all of that. You know, that's not even what it's all about, first of all. I realize what God has given me. And I appreciate that more than anything in the world. And I don't take it for granted. So when I go out and I play and I teach, in a lot of places I go to teach women's chorus, women's choirs, women's conferences, things of that nature. And when I look around, when I get to the choir rehearsal and I look around, and I don't even see any female musicians. So my question is, where are the lady musicians? Where are they? Because every time I go places, this is what I'm looking for. I really don't know what the issue is. I don't know if you feel intimidated or if you're kind of scared, because it is a male-dominated field. But I want to encourage every woman that wants to be a musician, that is a musician, that's striving to be a musician, whatever your call is, I want you to take the limits off. And I want you to stand up and go out there and get what you want to get, because it's out there for you. And let me say this. I went to, years ago, I tried to do the club scene, years ago. And I went with a couple of guys, and one of the guys that was there said, look, Miss Flagg, you are one of the ladies that nobody ever thought would come around, because you do so many things. You would be our ticket if you would just be with us. Because I play, I sing, my drums, Chris, is my passion. But my mom and everybody in the church wanted me to play the piano and the organ and direct the choir. So it was no big deal. So I was getting ready to leave the church, because I got hurt so bad in the church. Because I wanted to be a musician and not a choir member. I wanted to play the drums. I wanted to play the organ. I wanted to play the bass and stuff like that. But because I was a female, they turned me around from wanting to do that. And that hurt me so bad. I said, well, I'm going to go out here and make me some money in the club where they will accept me. And they asked me to come on out here so I could be their ticket. But I said, no, this is a gift that God gave me. So I prayed and asked God, I said, look, if this is what you want me to do, then I need you to open the door for me. And this is what he did. He gave me the boldness. So every time I go in and there's nothing guys there, he gave me the boldness to stand. He gave me the boldness to play the organ. And I didn't play looking all around at the cameras and all that stuff like that, which I see a lot of guys doing. I don't know what that's all about. But I went up there and I just played the organ. And when the song was over, I got up and went to my seat. So that was it. But I'm telling you right now, and especially the young girls, the young ladies who want to play, have a desire to play or whatever, one thing you can do is just be bold. And ask God, hey, I'm in a field where it's nothing but men, but help me to be able to stand, help me to be able to do this and be proud and make you proud. So you got to keep your head on straight. Because I'm going to tell you now, if church folk don't turn you around, the guys will. So keep your head on straight.
What was the signal, the sign, where you changed over from being just a musician and going into the production world? What was it that showed you maybe it was time for a shift or a slight change that altered your work?
Good question. I would say that, of course, I started out just playing with different groups and stuff, and I was another that started with Kevin. I was doing, some stuff before that myself, but started with Kevin Davidson, and that was kind of when they shifted to Kevin Davidson and the voices. Started playing, and he would come to me and say, hey, I need your help with this. Let's get together, let's write this, let's do this, let's come up with this. And so, the more we would get together, the more I would sort of get deeper and deeper into, coming up with songs, coming up with melodies, coming up with lyrics, coming up with things that, stuck out. And then that became, it went from there to, I think I know how we can put this together. I know how we can make this go from this little bit of here to up here to make people really hear it and say, oh, I think we like that. Now, granted, I didn't really know I was doing that, but I was doing it. For example, and you still hear this song to this day, it's Fight On. And probably 80% of you in here have no clue that that's me on piano. I came up with the whole deal on Fight On, some of the lyrics, which it's not a lot of lyrics to it. Right. But when you hear that song, as soon as you hear that, you automatically know, boom, that's Fight On. So it kind of went from there to just putting stuff together to just writing and like I said, just putting music together. And then I just started trying stuff myself. And again, I didn't know that technically I was producing at the time, but I was just constantly doing stuff. I went from doing gospel stuff to dabbling on the other side of the spectrum as far as R&B and some other stuff like that. And that's when I kind of figured out I am producing at the time. I just didn't know my business, which is what, Tony was talking about earlier. And so, looking in hindsight, even at that, like right now, I should be a trillionaire because of stuff that I did in the 90s that sold, 4 or 5 million copies. And my name is just showed as part of this team. But when I got done with it, I was like, but I thought I came up with all of that stuff. But like I said, I didn't have a clue as to what was going on at the time. So that made me look more into really seeing what a producer is and really trying to just put stuff together and formulate what I'm actually doing, what I'm supposed to get paid for, and then too, it was just a passion of mine too. So, that's one thing about it, and somebody's probably already said it, but you gotta have a passion to do it and not be doing it for the money. Because you can get let down real quick. So it was just a passion of mine that, I just kept working toward it. One thing I will say, I will touch on what Tevin said, and I won't be long, but about going to school. Like to this day, I had a full ride to Malone after I got out of school. I had a full president's scholarship, and I blew it. Now why did I blow it? Because I wanted to do music. Now I look at that like, you done it. You know what I mean? So I'm saying that to say that, the younger guys that's coming up now, coming out of school, and you're great at playing whatever instrument you're playing, don't go to school for music. Don't do that. Go to school to learn
learn something else that you have no clue what it is, that you know, that you can really do other than music, like what Tevin was saying. And like I said, that'll further you, because even now, where music is now versus where it was when we were doing it, some of us were doing it, it's totally different. It's totally different. Just the whole business, everything. I mean, today everybody's a producer. I mean, you got people that got cameras, and if they do, man, I produced that track, bro. So, you know, it's a little bit different now, but just really trying to answer your question. Like I said, it really just started, cultivating itself. The more I was doing stuff, and like I said, I didn't even see it at the time, but it just started cultivating itself. And then, like I said, at the time, the industry was actually using producers. And so I got pulled into some situations that I was just in. I was just in the right place at the right time, and on a lot of this stuff. I was pesky. I got on people's nerves. I was like, hey, you know, let me do this. Let me come in and do that. And I got on the right people's nerves. And, you know, so now it's different because, like I say, getting on people's nerves now, I mean, everybody's doing it. So it's kind of like you actually are getting on people's nerves because everybody's doing it. So it's a little bit different now. Just so I hope I answered the question.
I would like to personally thank everybody for coming out, being a part of One Sound Memphis. It was an awesome event. We believe people left here inspired, encouraged, and motivated to go on with their musical careers. Not only that, but empowered to how to live after after the sound is over. So be looking out for more things for us in the future. This is just the beginning of a unity, of a movement of One Sound Memphis. Thank you again for coming out. Thank you to all our panelists for being a part. Dr. Leo Davis. Thank you to Brother Scotty Brown for opening up. Thank you for all the guests that came. We could not have done it without you. I can't express my gratitude. Keep praying for us. Keep lifting our city up. This is just the beginning of a movement. We have to stay together. We are better together. All right. See you next time.